You say you haven't been the same since you had your little crash, but you might feel better if they gave you some cash. The more I think about it, old Billy was right. Let's kill all the
Hey man,
lawyers. Kill
ain't it good to be alive and be in Tennessee?
It is.
How you
Happy
doing?
Friday to everybody.
Happy Friday. Happy podcast. This is two Marks and
One mic, or two marks, one mic.
it's our second podcast of the season, and today we are focusing on rideshare.
Yes, and there's some important developments in rideshare, and what's important for people to...
At rideshare, we're talking about Uber.
Yeah, Uber or
and
Lyft or the similar things. There's important developments in on the insurance part of rideshare that really and truly, if people are utilizing rideshare, they need to make certain that they understand what the state laws are as they relate to.
Right.
In this particular case, we're going to talk about uninsured motorist care
Well,
coverage.
let's just start with kind of a lay of the land. Okay, so you ordered an Uber, you get the Uber, and the Uber driver runs a stop sign and causes you injury. As a matter of fact, with Uber and Lyft, you've seen an uptick of 3% of fatalities nationwide because of Uber and Lyft and ride-sharing companies. So
Yeah, we'll touch on that here in a little
Yeah,
bit
so-
as to what the reasons may be.
Yeah. So you're involved in an accident with Uber, and the reason, and like any other issue that we have with safe driving and distracted driving, the number one cause of Uber accidents, Lyft accidents, their drivers is distracted driving. Distracted driving, because if you, yeah, go ahead.
So back to the coverage part we're talking about is so if you're riding in an Uber and the Uber driver's at fault, he runs a red light and causes a crash, insurance is not a problem.
No, because
Uber provides insurance for their drivers, and it's up to $1 million. So
$1 million,
it's a significant policy.
which is a significant policy in Tennessee, because the minimum policy in Tennessee is $25,000. 25,000, then 50, then 100, then 250. So $1 million is basically a commercial policy that you have.
And so if you're
If
riding
they're at fault.
if you're riding in an Uber and it's not the Uber driver's fault, it's the other car's fault, and that other car has liability insurance, not
You're
a
still
problem.
golden. You're still golden. You know, if it's the other driver's fault that caused the accident and you were hurt, you got medical bills, and that driver has insurance, liability insurance, then you're still golden. You still have someone to pay for your medical charges, your medical bills, and your lost wages. The problem arises, John Mark, is when what happens?
Well, what happens now in the state of Tennessee, since Tennessee is not requiring uninsured motorist coverage for rideshare companies, the same set of facts. The Uber driver is not at fault. The other driver that caused the accident is the one that's at fault, runs a red light, crashes into the Uber. Now that driver that caused the accident does not have insurance. What's the repercussion of that?
If the other driver does not have insurance, you're going to be paying your own medical bills. You're going to be suffering your own lost wages. You're going to be enduring pain and suffering without compensation. This law, well, there has been no law. You know,
Well, first of all, if as long as you're a passenger in the Uber vehicle and you have your own uninsured motorist coverage, and the other driver that caused the crash does not have liability insurance, then you can rely on your own uninsured motorist coverage.
Right. And the purpose of uninsured motorist is to protect you in a situation where you've been hit by an uninsured driver.
Correct. Basically, steps in the shoes of that uninsured driver, so there's coverage to protect you for your medical bills, your injuries, your pain and suffering, your lost wages, all those sorts of things.
A couple of points here. Number one, Tennessee should be more of a consumer advocate to protect consumers.
That's
You know,
correct.
Uber should be the one providing uninsured motorists like they were last year.
Right, and
Lyft should be providing uninsured motorists for passengers like they were last year. This year they stopped doing it in
right,
Tennessee.
and that's the problem. The problem is that you're riding in an Uber, you don't have a policy.
Right.
You don't have your own policy.
No.
And here's the thing. A lot of people that utilize rideshare, Uber, Lyft, any of those rideshare companies, they don't have a car.
Right.
They don't have insurance.
Right.
They're using the Uber as a mode of
To
transportation.
get to and from work.
Right. So that person that is riding in that same insured Uber,
I mean, it pisses me off,
Has
you know,
no
because Uber and Lyft make billions of dollars. Okay, you know, and last year and really to provide uninsured motorists is pennies on the dollar, really,
Right.
for Uber and Lyft. You know, they did this to make more money.
Right. So
They did this to make more money and shift the burden upon the passenger who doesn't even have a car.
Well, just so the audience understands the scenario we're talking about, where the innocent passenger in this Uber is the one left holding the bag, is Uber has its own liability policy, does not have uninsured motorist policy. The driver that caused the accident does not have any insurance, no liability insurance, and the Uber driver doesn't have any insurance because they don't have a car. They rely on rideshare.
The Uber passenger does not have any uninsured motorist.
So that in that scenario, that Uber passenger or Lyft passenger or other rideshare company passenger is left holding the bag, and
Right.
no way to recover for an
yeah.
accident that was
Not
in
their
no
fault.
way their fault.
You know, and they have medical bills, they have lost wages, they have pain and suffering, and they're out of luck because Tennessee does not require Uber to carry uninsured motorists.
Now,
Like Georgia does.
That is exactly what I was going to say. Georgia, which is more progressive in that area, and when we talk about progressive, we mean protecting the consumer.
Right.
Tennessee is not protecting the consumer
As much as they can.
as much as they can.
I mean,
it's an easy thing.
It is an easy fix also.
It-
I mean, really, John Mark, I mean, we are required to have 25, by law, in Tennessee, you're supposed to have $25,000 worth of coverage.
Liability coverage.
Liability coverage. You know, in Tennessee, Uber does not have to have uninsured motorists of 25,000.
Yeah, to be clear, a driver in Tennessee does not have to have uninsured motorist
Right.
coverage.
Right.
The minimum requirement is liability coverage of $25,000. But what we're talking about, because there's situations to where you're going to have consumers utilizing rideshare
Right.
that don't have insurance
No.
because they don't have a car.
They can't get insurance.
Or they can't get insurance, or there's no reason for them
Yeah.
to have insurance because
That's-
they don't have a
that's
car.
right, yeah.
That is the consumer that needs to be protected. So
We're going to work on that.
we're working on that, like we've worked on, you know, the never texting drive and the hands-free Tennessee, the seatbelts on buses, all these things that we've championed over the years to protect innocent consumers. We want to reach out to the legislature, and we're encouraging anybody who watches the podcast to do the same thing. Reach out to your local representative. Reach out to your local state senator, and let's get them talking about this. We need to protect the consumer.
It's just, you know, it's also just being good business too. I mean, Uber and Lyft should do this on their own accord,
Right.
because they're profiting from, you know,
Well,
having
you
rideshare.
mentioned the key word. Well, they don't
Yeah,
profit.
yeah.
And if the state is going to protect big business as
Right.
opposed to protecting the consumer,
Mhm.
they're going to take advantage of
Yeah.
that. They're going to take advantage of that.
So, takeaway point: if you're able to get uninsured motorists, you should have uninsured motorists, because there's 25% of the drivers on Tennessee roads don't have insurance.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this for years. Is uninsured motorists is a relatively cheap form of insurance. There's no reason not to have it. Your agent may try to sell you a minimum policy and may not try to sell you anything else, because you go in, you say, I want to be legal as cheaply as
right,
possible.
yeah,
Just
right,
be as cheap as possible.
right.
But look, it's pennies on the dollars compared to liability
It is,
insurance.
and the agents, I don't know why these just don't put the cherry on top of the cake and say, why don't you get uninsured motorists for an extra $25 a quarter? I mean, it is very, very inexpensive.
Very,
to
very
have.
inexpensive, and it's something that protects you, because we have situations where the state of Tennessee, where they could protect you, for example,
Yeah.
have not protect you.
Right.
If you have uninsured motorist coverage, you don't have to worry about this problem.
Right. And also it covers you if you're a passenger in someone else's car
Correct.
that's hit by an uninsured driver. It also, this always kind of freaks me out, because it also protects you as a pedestrian
Yes.
if you're hit by an uninsured driver.
Correct.
You know, so it protects you, a pedestrian, passenger, and a driver.
Exactly.
Dirt cheap, you should have it. This has been 2 Marks, and
One mic, or
See you
two
next-
marks, one mark.
see you next time.
One mic. See you next time. Thank you.